theater makers, and welcome back to another episode of Theater's Not Dead with Keyanna Alexander. I am your host, Keyanna Alexander. We are continuing our series today about reshaping Othello. This is following the creative team and the cast of Women Theater Festival's virtual production of Othello. Y'all, it's been such a great time talking to all of these wonderful women, and guess what? I don't even know if my heart's ready yet, but like we're gonna do it. We're gonna talk to the Othello. Nubia Monks is an actress, playwright, and an educator. She is over the moon about being able to experience a massive role in Othello as Othello. She is even more elated about doing this particular production of Othello because it is truly revolutionary. Honestly, y'all, I couldn't agree more. So let's bring her in. Nubia, hi!
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you,
I'm
Queen?
doing well. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, well, first off, we always start with one particular question. Because we are a little bit still getting to know each other, I don't know this answer yet. How did you get started in theater?
Oh my God. I was 14 years old. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and I did not have it well growing up. I come from poverty, and it was rough. And I was going through quite a lot at 14, and I needed purpose. I needed something more. I needed something else other than the cards that were dealt to me. And I was on my last straw. I emotionally, mentally tapped out. And I found myself wandering around my high school after hours, and there was a door open, and there was auditions happening, and I knew nothing about theater, like absolutely nothing about auditioning or what to audition with or anything of the sort. And I just stumbled on in, and the director, who became like a father figure to me, he was like, "What are you going to do for us today?" And I was just like, I don't have a paragraph prepared. I didn't know it was called a monologue. So I said, I don't have a paragraph prepared. So I'm just going to talk to you. And I gave the disclaimer that this is not real. I'm just talking. And I ended up telling my story. It was the first time I had verbally expressed what had been done to me, how I what had happened to me. And it was my real story. And he ended up casting me, and later on down the line he was just like, I knew you were telling your story, and it was raw and it was real, and boom. And so he ended up casting me, and I was absolutely in love with the idea of being somebody else, immersing myself in another world for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then I came to, do theater more and more. And then I realized that you actually don't get to escape who you are with doing theater. You actually get to bring all of who you are to theater. And in doing that, I fell in love with my life, my story, myself. Theater saved my life. And it all started because I was searching for purpose, and theater gave that to me.
Um, I think I'm so moved by the story because we always talk about, okay, theater is how we tell our stories, it's how we relate to each other, it's how we bring breath into other people's stories, and that epitomizes that in such a beautiful way to me. Like, I wow. Because so many, like, in my experience, so many of my collaborators have been like, well, my dad did theater, so I do theater. Or it's, well, community theater was the cool thing to do at my high school, so I stumbled into it. But this idea that you found theater and theater found you at the same time,
Yeah.
so good. So good. Wow. Okay. And I also forgot to mention that Nubia, your lighting is remarkable this morning.
Thank you,
It
thank
was
you,
so
thank
done. Like, wow. It's the glow for me. It really is.
you. I tried.
It's the glow. Follow up question though about your like beginning story in theater because I'm trying to prove a point and so far we've been getting a lot of mixed answers.
Okay.
Were you at all involved in athletics in your childhood or adolescence?
You know, 10th grade, I thought, oh, why not run track? There were some cute boys running track. And so I too wanted to run track. But Guys and Dolls, the musical, was happening at the same time. And I had to choose, do I continue running track? I love to run. Running is something that I just love to do, even as an adult. But Guys and Dolls, but theater, but rehearsals, but what do I do? So I chose up. Okay, I said bye to running track, and I went straight into playing Sarah in Guys and Dolls. So yes, I did. I did do a little athletic.
We now have to do this deep dive into Guys and Dolls because my high school also did that production and I wasn't cast as Sarah. I was not. I was Nicely Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you. I had the little hat and I had the tie and we were rocking the boat. It was a good time.
Yes.
But then drama occurred. And
Uh-huh.
our Sarah said, I don't, because it was a student directed
Uh-huh.
production, which meant things were going to go left.
Oof. Yeah.
And Sarah said that she didn't like the director anymore. So she just left. She just didn't
Oh.
do the show anymore. So now Nicely Johnson gets an upgrade to Sarah.
Oh. Yes. Come through. Promotion.
So I was just, you're, okay. Sure, I'll do it. I guess I'll do it. I know the lines. So I wanted to share, like, was I a fellow Sarah? Yes. That was not my intention, though.
No, it
Did you
wasn't.
like your, oh gosh, the main character's love interest?
Mm-hmm.
What was that character's name?
Oh God. You
Uh,
had Sarah and you had, oh my
it's like
God.
Sky something, right?
Yes. Sky.
We're so bad at this. Oh no.
Wow. I don't remember.
We're,
Oh my
we're
God.
calling him Sky for the sake of the argument. Did you like the, I'm going to assume it was cast as a young man. Did you like the young man who was cast as your Sky?
Yes, he was like my, well, he still is to this day, a brother, a big brother to me. So it was very weird kissing my brother. um, but yes, I loved it. And we both at the time could not sing to save our lives. So when we got into "Oh no, when my love comes along," the director, who is like my father figure, he ended up for the last show. He was just like, you know what? Don't sing it, just talk it. We were just like, okay, much better idea. Yeah. Yeah. So we had a good time because we were on the same page. Like we can act our faces off, but when it came to singing, at the time, I could not hear. I could not hear to save my life. And it's funny because I started singing in like the choir in high school and in church, but I could not hear. And so yeah, it was just the whole thing.
I mm, I relate to that so heavy because
Mm.
I still can't sing. So like, wow, so good. I'm
Yeah.
glad one of us stepped our game up. I love that for you. Um, Sky for me was like, so they brought in a graduate from my high school already. So he was like coming in. He had, I think it was like his spring break from college, first year. So he thinks he's like hot shit. And like,
Oh,
I wish that young man the best. I do.
me too.
Yeah. Like, and we're going to leave it at that. But this brings me to, I didn't even think about like, Keyanna, stop fangirling and can make a sentence for like the sake of everyone here. This idea that your first theater that you're really involved in really does become your family because that's the first time you have those sorts of ties, those sorts of relationships.
Yeah.
Even for myself, my high school teacher and her husband, because he was very involved in after school programming, I still call them my theater mom and dad. They showed up to my college graduation. Like, we're
Oh,
still very close.
yeah.
So when you say that these individuals are like your father figure, like your brother figure,
Yeah.
I that rings so true.
Yeah, absolutely. Because for me, I'm just gonna name him. His name is Rainey because he'll probably watch this interview. Hi, Rainey. You know I love you. He was so young. He was like 21 when we met him, and graduated from Morehouse. Also grew up in South Central LA, but then went to Atlanta, did theater there, came back to his community and taught at Washington Preparatory High School. And what he did was kind of like Glee. When you think of Glee, he got all the cool people, your basketball players, your football players, the popular kids. He got them to do theater. He got them to not only do it, but enjoy it and be good at it. And what we all had in common was that a lot of us a lot of us grew up blocks away from each other. A lot of us grew up in, some of us were foster kids like myself, or some of us, came from broken homes, or were from the streets. It was just, we were all from so many different walks of life, but what bonded us was this art craft, this theater, and then learning each other's stories and falling in love with each other. And over 10 years later, we are still family. Like these guys were just at my sister's house for Easter. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here rehearsing, but I'm looking at videos of the people that I started out with when I was 14. And now we're all grown ups, still doing life together, still creating art together. You know what I'm saying? I just finished a show with Rainey. And we're still working, on a show. And so, yeah, it's what theater does. And that's the power of theater, because when you're doing it, you're literally opening up yourself, right? To not only the audience, but to the people you're on stage with. And if you think that, if you can't minimize those connections, they are soul ties. They are definitely soul ties. That vulnerability, that opening up of oneself, and like laying yourself bare in front of these people. Like, of course we were going to be bonded for life. You know what I'm saying? And so my partner talks about it all the time. Like, they always say, I can't believe you are still friends with the folks you came up with from high school. I'm just like, theater did it, Yeah.
It's that connection of like being able to look at something and say, we did this together, we made this together. And yes. I think my longest running friend, we met in third grade, fourth grade. No, yeah, wow. Couldn't tell you anymore. But like, we weren't doing theater because we were just two little girls, but like, we made stories together. We made like skits on our own in like her mom's living room, that sort of stuff. So like, yes, absolutely, this idea that you can run into the imaginary world with somebody, so good.
Life partners. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Say it for the people in the back, partners.
Come on, life partners.
Yes. Wow. Okay. I do want to transition just a wee bit here and talk about uh, the thing above our head, the big O, for a
Mm,
little bit. So let's creep into the conversation and start with the guy who wrote it. How do we feel about William Shakespeare, and what is your relationship with his works?
this story, I always tell this story. And I tell it for the Black folks, for my Black folks who are like me, who, upon first glance, completely just shut Shakespeare out. This person did not write for me at all, did not have me in mind at all, did not have the truth of my people in mind, right? He only had, or they only had, uh, their skewed perception of Blackness, if that in their minds. And so me and Shakespeare go way back. In undergrad, I avoided Shakespeare at all costs. And then I had to audition for grad school, and they needed a classical monologue. And when I thought at the time classical, I thought, okay, Shakespeare. So I'm looking for a monologue to do, and I'm looking on YouTube, all these white women doing, these monologues. And I landed on As You Like It, Think Not I Love Him Though I Ask For Him, the Phoebe monologue. And I literally copied off this white woman, her voice, her everything. And so I take this to my director at my undergrad, and she stops me like before I can even get to the third stanza. She's like, wait a minute, wait, who are you? This is not your voice. Where's your voice in this? And I was just like, huh? I was like, I found the video on YouTube and this, and so she said, we can't continue. Go back, find your voice. I want your voice on this. That was revolutionary in of itself, because I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was possible. I said, I'm a Black woman. There is no voice to be found for me in Shakespeare. What? Anywho, she worked with me and worked with me and worked with me. I did the audition. I got into grad school, the grad school that I wanted to go to, UC San Diego. And then grad school happened, right? And when grad school happened, I became aware of the burden Black people or POCs have to bear in these programs that amplify Shakespeare, that put Shakespeare on such a pedestal in the pedagogy, in, their programming, right? Thinking of shows. And it became tedious because I needed more, because in my mind at the time, I thought, I'm a Black woman. I feel like that when I think of classics, I think August Wilson, I think Lorraine Hansberry, I think Susie Laurie Parks, I think Katori Hall, Dominique Morisseau, Terrell Alvin McCraney. Like, I'm thinking, these are my classics. These are the people who I relate to. Shakespeare, I cannot relate to. And so second year happened. And second year is Shakespeare heavy. Second year, we take Shakespeare classes. And my Shakespeare teacher, Marco Baricelli, loves Shakespeare so much. And I remember first day of class, I'm skeptical as hell. I'm just like, oh my God, we're gonna have to do this for a whole quarter. What the heck? Let's just get it over with. I had my guard up because his language is hurtful. If you're a POC, it's like, it's hurtful. And I'm just like, how do you love this man so much? Nonetheless, I don't know how, Keyanna, I don't know what the love rubbed off on me. And my teacher's passion, I mean, the way he taught Shakespeare, the way he would take his time with, teaching us Shakespeare, and the way that he believed in me doing Shakespeare. He literally told me, you'll be a great Hermia. You'll be a great, da 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 da. And I'm like, what? Me? Huh? And yeah, his passion and his love kind of opened my eyes to dive deeper into this Shakespeare's work, and doing the scene work and doing all the, all of that jazz. I started to fall in love. And then we did Taming of the Shrew, which is an all-female adaptation of Taming of the Shrew. And I was cast as Grumio. And if you know, Grumio is a servant character. Grumio is Petruchio's servant. And that kind of stung me a little bit because when we sat in rehearsal, they were cutting out all the triggering language like slave and servant and knave and all the things. They were cutting it out. And we sat around the table and the dramaturg asked, why are we taking these words out? And the director couldn't even look at me. The director was just like, yeah, well. And so now everybody is looking at me. Everybody has their heads turned. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. So the next day, I'm talking to our deputy about just how weird this is and how we have to do something about this because clearly we're taking the language out because it's problematic, but without the conversations around why it's problematic, there will be no growth. There will be no revolution in this show. So now I had to do the work that I was not paid for, I had to do all the emotional labor. I had to come back the next day with, hey, I am not going to be Petruchio's slave or servant, but I will be Petruchio's right hand, right? Let's put us on equal. Let's make us equal. It doesn't change the play. It doesn't change the integrity of the play. It's just, I'm nobody's slave. I think for me as a Black woman, it's triggering and it's harmful and it hurts. Luckily, the director was all for it. And it ended up being one of the most amazing experiences of Shakespeare that I had. And I, that in and of itself taught me that, oh, okay, Shakespeare, I don't have to be afraid of you. I don't have to allow your language to upstage who I am as a Black woman. I don't have to be traumatized while doing your work. I don't have to let your work traumatize me, basically. And so I was empowered and I went off to, to love Shakespeare. And I tell this every time I tell this story. I tell people before I do any show, including Othello, I have a conversation with Shakespeare. Like, look, bruh, I'm doing this and I'm gonna do a damn good job. And I know you didn't write this for me and I don't care because for that little Black girl or for that little Black boy, they need to know that they can do this too. And they need to know that they don't have to be white in order to do it. And they don't have to talk white in order to do it, right? They can bring all of who they are to your text. See, you can thank me when the show is over because I'm about to kill it. That is my conversation. That is what I do. And so that's been the relationship with Shakespeare. It's just we kind of go at it every time I do a Shakespeare play. And I ended up doing Hermia, and I ended at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And I ended up doing Titania at the Old Globe, And so like I've had experiences with Shakespeare and it's worked for me. And the last thing I'll say on this is after my performance in Oregon, a young Black lady came up to me and she was just like, a young little girl came up to me and she was just like, I really enjoyed your performance because you talked like you. You did not talk white. You were not white. You were you. And I said, and that's more than half the battle right there. And I need you to know that you can be you and do Shakespeare. And then boom. That's how you change lives with this. That's how you revolutionize Shakespeare, right? You don't cast Black people and POCs as the slave, the whore, the clown, the, whatever have you, the prop, right? You make them Hamlets, Othellos, freaking whatever, right? And you tell the world to catch up, right? You put that on them, yes? And so it's been a revolutionary journey. I say all that to say.
So it started off with like an anecdote and then it ended with this beautiful call to action. Like that's a whole speech. There were valleys, there were mountains. Like you took us on a journey.
Thank you, Queen.
Thank you. Wow. So there's so much that we can deep dive in what you just shared with us though. One, representation will always matter for the exact reasons that Nubia just shared with us. So like when you think, oh yeah, we've put enough Black and brown bodies on stage, we're good for a while. No, that's not how this works. You have to keep doing it anyways. Before I get on my soapbox about something, I'm just, so that too, They said they wanted a classical monologue. You delivered a classical monologue. So I just want to like validate you that like
Yeah.
you said the words. Maybe not in the fashion that they wanted, but you did say the words.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that I think I still see performers go into that mindset
Yeah.
that in order to do any classical piece, be that Shakespeare or not, in order to do classical theater, it is the same as doing the white vernacular.
That British RP, you know, yeah. It's really, really sickening to me, especially for POCs.
Yeah.
It's like you literally travel so far away from yourself in order to appeal to whiteness, and do Shakespeare when you don't have to. You don't have to do that work. You don't have to put yourself through that. Just be you.
And I promise you'll probably make it sound better than when the white folks did it.
Oh, see, I didn't want to say it, Key. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it, Key, but you said it, so I'm a validate. I'm gonna lift that up because yes, it just is what it is, Key. Period.
Like, okay, so when Monet was on the show, and God bless Monet Marshall wherever she is this morning, um, she had made this beautiful comment about how she could never write about people of color because that is not his experience, that is not his life. So he will never be able to write a proper role for a person of color. And I think that's a wonderful context to show he did write. I mean, we call it iambic pentameter, but he did write in rhythm. He wrote in rhythm. And this is me generalizing. White people don't have rhythm.
Oh, child.
So when we're talking about putting on the white vernacular, the British accent in order to do these shows,
Yeah.
one, our American tongues are gonna get choked up and twisted because we don't talk that way, period. And then two, specifically for people of color, we're already doing that. So why are you trying to like overhaul us?
Yeah. 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 Because white supremacy. Because white supremacy.
There
Because it has
is
to be our way. Because our way is the right way. Our way is good speech, right? Talk like this, emphasize this. No. I want to emphasize this because that's how it makes sense to me. I'm playing this part. You just had better keep up.
there is a metaphor that producer Hannah Williams and I love to kind of call back to, this idea that like great performers, great artists of color have a island full of cinnamon, and what will happen is the white folks will show up, be like, wow, there's something to all this cinnamon. This is some really cool shit. We like the cinnamon. And then they'll take it back to their island. And then, like, when black people get a little curious and we're like, huh, I guess we'll go see what the white folks are up to. Let me go dabble in some white theater real quick. All the white people are like, hey, have you tried a thing called cinnamon? Have you heard about the cinnamon thing?
Jesus.
And it happens time and time again. Like, even Shakespeare does it. And
yeah.
But the cinnamon was mine. How are you going to teach me how to cinnamon when I've been cinnamon all my life?
Really be believing that it wasn't. Like, really be believing that the cinnamon was theirs. The cinnamon was theirs. Because white supremacy. Oh, it is sick. It is sick. It's like we talk about black people being in a sunken place. No, whiteness, like I'm talking hibernates in the sunken place. It is come out to reality, white folk. Come on.
One of the most grounding things that's ever been told to me about Shakespeare came from Alex Lynn, who was a guest on the show, and she was like, I mean, Shakespeare is cool and all, but he ate mushrooms straight from the ground. And I'm like, and that just kind of reminds me Oh yeah, this man is like, sure, he could write a good play sometimes, but like, he was still a guy. He is still a singular man. He like wasn't a messiah like some theater folks want to make him out to be.
I mean, come on. Come on. I couldn't get with it. I still to this day don't understand why we have placed him on such a pedestal and why we in our grad school programs, and this is traumatizing in of itself. And if you are an educator watching this, please stop doing this. We tell actors that if you can master Shakespeare, then you'll just easily know how to do everything else. That's not true. The more I mastered this in the way that the white folks in my program wanted me to, the more I lost my voice and lost who I was. It was stripping. It was them stripping me of everything that made me who I am. And I had all this classical training and none of me. We have to stop telling actors this, because then they go out into the world and they believe it, you know? Yeah, it's damaging.
Yeah. I just want us to sit in that for a minute. Just like, yeah. Diversifying curriculum, I don't know, might be a thing.
Yeah.
Recognizing where the cinnamon actually comes from might be a thing. Just some takeaways for our audience this morning. Okay, so we've talked about Shakespeare. We've talked about the general canon of works. Let's talk about Othello specifically. And when was your first exposure to this story, and how has... Well, no, we're just going to start there.
My first exposure to the story, grad school, my best friend played Othello, and that was the moment I said nobody should ever do this show. Nobody should ever do Othello. I did not know how it could be done and not hurt people. The version that was done in grad school, it just wasn't it. You know, people have tried. This is why I love what we're doing with Othello. People have done this thing where they will adapt Shakespeare, Othello, in a way that kind of covers up the racism, right? Some people will sacrifice the racism for the sexism, right? Let's amplify the sexism in the play and let's get rid of the racism, as if that is any better. And I find that not to be helpful. What I find to be helpful, what I wished would have happened in grad school, is if they would have done the play straight up. Do it straight up. Don't hide or don't shy away from the violence, the racism. Don't make Othello out to be this puppet, right? This person who's not even human, right? The version that I saw took away his humanity. And and this was my best friend playing this role. And I remember how excited he was when he first got the role versus when they closed the show. His light, literally, my best friend is a light in this world. And I hope that you meet him one day, Key. But his light started to dim. And you just have those people. You're one of those people, Key. Like, you're one of those people where it's just like, I will be able to tell right away if your light is like dim, because you're a good human. And so that show, we know Othello is hard no matter how you do it, right? But there was just no care. Nobody took care of this man in the room, right? They elevated the sexism in a way that was like, you know, in their conversations, like, well, you're a man in this world, so this, that, and the other. No, baby. He's a Black man in this white world. So that male privilege he does not have. He does not have that male privilege in a sea of white. That it just doesn't, that's not the reality here. And so that was my introduction to Othello, and it was a bad one. And so I protested the show. I was like, nobody should ever do this show. And if they do this show, they should have a white man doing this, playing Othello. Black people should not do this show. This was not written for us. I was pissed. So yeah, that was my intro.
Mm-hmm. We were talking with Ayanna Thompson last week, and she's like, "Yeah, what happens is about a third the way in, that isolation, that like making Othello separate from the rest of the cast, from the rest of the world, starts to happen IRL around halfway or the third way through the rehearsal process, like
Mm,
because of whiteness and because of typically how directors handle the role, where they're
yeah,
like, yeah, Othello, it's all on you, and it's you're different from everybody else in this show, and not giving them the community, the support, the emotional balance they need to sustain such a heavy role. And I was like, ooh, Ayanna, you on to something, girl. um but anyways, yes, I think we all know this is a problematic show. I think if you haven't figured that part out yet, yes, please reread it with different eyes, cuz it's not a story for fun folks. It's not a story that, like, even for a tragedy, does not portray people well.
yeah.
Anyone.
Anybody. Yeah, yeah. But I think the only thing that is accurate in this show is white violence and whiteness. That is the one thing he got right, right? Like this is a show that to the T speaks to the timelessness of white violence and the fact that it has no bottom. To this day, you won't. Nobody can tell me why Iago does what they do. Nobody can. Because when it comes to racism, there is no bottom. There is people don't know why they hate black people. So they like there is no. You can't get. You know, it's convenient. It's what they know. It's all they know. It's what they're taught. It's and so that's what he got right is white violence and racism.
Part of me wanted to answer you when you said, "Why does Iago do what he does?" And it's like, because he knows no one will stop him.
Yes, because white supremacy, because privilege, because I don't have anything better else to do, because jealousy, because envy, because how dare a black person rise to the top, and then how dare I not be there? What?
Because we're
It
all
is
for black excellence as long as it's not better than mine.
period. Come on, that's history. That's history. That's today. That's right now. Yeah.
So yes, I just wow. You I'm gonna form a real sentence now, I promise. So you auditioned for the role of Othello here, like we're in a building, with Women's Theater Festival. Let's just talk about, like, why did
Yeah.
you want to audition, want to be a part of this project?
When I saw the description on Facebook, I was hooked. Um, the cast breakdown, the director, Amritha, who was at OSF and is now at Play On. Love you, Amritha. Tagged me on Facebook, and I trust her with my life. She is the reason why so many great things have happened to me. And so yeah, she tagged me, and I was just like, okay, I'm interested. I thought the breakdown of the vision of Othello, this Othello, was the answer to my rage in grad school. And so I was just like, yeah, there's no way I'm missing out on this. I'll be a tree. I'll be a freaking table. Just let me be in the room with these beautiful folks of color and these women. And come on. Yeah.
I'll be a tree. I think that's that type of level that I want to approach some shows with, and then I always like talk myself out of it. I'm gonna start auditioning for trees. Just put me on stage.
Right? Come on. Just want to be in the room where it happens.
So, okay, bam, you audition because tree, table, you're gonna be there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna skip part of this process, but
Mhm.
you get the role of Othello.
Yeah.
What was your initial reaction to the casting?
Oh my God, I cried. Johanna called me. And I love that, right? I don't think anyone's ever called me to tell me I got the role. So that was beautiful. Not, and let alone an artistic director, what? Called me and gave me the news. And when I got the phone, my partner can tell you I went into the room, fell on the floor, and just cried. Yeah, so I was very excited, and I just wanted to get started right away. I ordered my No Fear Shakespeare, Othello. I got, as soon as they sent the script, I got it printed out. I was just like, let's just start. I talked to my best friend who played Othello, like just tell me all the things. And yeah, I was just hella excited, and I still am. I mean, the room is just so beautiful. The people that I get to work with, I'm just like, wow, can we just all hang out and be friends?
I promise by the end of the pandemic, there's like a whole list of people that we're gonna have to try to shove in a room together. Like,
Yeah,
because I
seriously.
still I still don't know what your knees look like, and that's a problem for me.
My knee. Oh, I love that.
We
I love
gotta we gotta remedy this. I
that.
promise you.
Hey, I agree. I agree.
So wow, okay, so it was a emotional experience from the very top for you. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
Wow. And it
And it was terrifying. I was terrified because I think I was just saying this last night after the run. It's one thing to be doing this show. It's another thing to be doing it virtually. Uh, I don't know. For me, it's I've been able to tap into emotions, and that I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to if we were in person. I don't know. Um, but it's been a ride. It's been a beautiful ride because it's been a safe one. I felt safe. I felt seen. I felt fully taken care of. I felt heard. Um, and yeah, Jamaica is a gem. She is a gem. The vision that she has for this show, and yeah, I trust her. I trust her vision, and I'm just glad I get to bring it to fruition with all these beautiful people. But yeah, it's been a very emotional ride, and it's not been easy at all.
it's a heavy role, and I think that you don it very well. And that's me speaking as like a theater viewer, but also as your TD. And I just want to share with the audience, like, y'all, this show about to be good. And like that's nothing on me. That's just based off of the performers. Like this show about to be good. Like good.
Stop it. We look good because of you. Stop
Y'all,
it.
y'all gave me some good stuff to make look good. And we will cycle around this all day, Nubia. I'm not afraid to keep complimenting you. And so TD had on here as well. The very first time I like showed up into rehearsal, it was one of the nights where we were working on just breathing and finding breath in our lines, and it was led by Tia James, bless her wherever she is this morning. And I made the comment to the stage manager. I was like, everyone was just so comfortable and relaxed, and like people were like just chilling out on their floors. I was like, this is like a sleepover. This isn't rehearsal. We're having a slumber party. And I loved all the moments that the collaborators and the performers were just like, yeah, we're working, but also giggling was happening, jokes were happening, foolery was happening, and it was such a beautiful experience to witness.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that like that has continued through rehearsal, through tech week, and I think that energy, that community, that love, that theater love, I think it is going to show through the piece too.
I agree. Definitely agree.
Do you know? So, how many folks in this cast did you know before the show?
I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone. I mean, me and Aquila, who's our costume designer, we were at OSF together. Um, but no, I didn't know anyone. But it's funny because some folks in the cast know friends of mine, so like interconnected that way. Yeah. No, but I didn't know anyone. Yeah.
I would have not have guessed that based on how everyone works in the rehearsal rooms.
Hey, we all take to each other. It's really dope. It's really dope.
All right, Nubia, friend, I do have one more question for you before we attempt to close this conversation, although I do want it to continue forever and on. Um, because this role is so massive and heavy and like it goes into some really dark places, how do you keep your mental health? Like how do you protect yourself while you're doing the role?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. So I have this ritual that I do after, a show. And then okay, so I wash my face. But I know you're supposed to wash your face every night, and that's great. That's taken care of. But when I'm after like I do a show or a run, or especially something like this, um, I wash my face with the intention of literally washing the character off of me. And weirdly, it it works. It works. Um, so I do that, and then I'll probably have a sip of wine and watch TV that doesn't make me think. So like Love Island or something, some like reality TV show. Yes, I do a lot of breathing. My partner was just like, actually last night they were like, I would love to make a playlist for you for when you finish the show, so you can have it to listen to. And I was just like, thank you, I would appreciate that, but I also love silence. So like because I feel like this show, I don't know, there's so much happening, and I have liked just sitting in silence and breathing and listening to my own breath. Um, so that's helped me. And then I'll read. So right now I'm finishing up Twilight, which is like weird. So yeah, I like read a book to immerse myself in, some fiction, and I pray a lot. I talk to God, my God, throughout the day, after shows, and then I like to just talk it out. I like to just talk it out of me, because with roles like this, whether you believe it or not, they stick. Parts of them stick, especially when you have moments like last night where Dee Dee called rehearsal and I'm just sitting in the dark weeping. I was just weeping because this is not easy, and it comes with a cost. This show comes at a great cost. To do this show in 2021, where chaos is literally happening in the world against black and brown bodies. um it's so I have to be very intentional about my self-care and checking in with myself all throughout the day. As crazy as I might look, I don't care. I'm constantly checking in with myself, making sure that I am actually okay, because the moment I stop being okay, all bets are off. I cannot do it. I cannot do it because I am someone who struggles with depression and anxiety, and it's not something I would wish on anybody. And it's when I say stuff sticks, I don't want this to stick. I don't want Othello sticking to me. I love Othello and I love the humanity that Jamaica has so beautifully given to Othello and center the story around mental health. Um, but I have to take her off of me completely. And so yeah, I have little rituals.
I think for me, the reminder I needed was have you checked in with yourself, Keyanna? The answer is no. Yeah, that's this idea that you can like self care along the way every day. Yeah.
That is so important. Ooh, I'm gonna write a book on it. It is so important.
Let me know. I may not have the time to like completely ghost write it or anything, but like I could do a little beta reading, a little like grammar check, like
I got you. I got you.
cool, 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 cool. And this is also just me inserting myself in the process so I can read it before anybody else.
I got you.
I just, in case there was any confusion about what my motivations were, it is selfish. Absolutely. Okay. Wow. And it's one of those crazy things. We didn't even get to talk about the virtual component. We didn't even get to talk about like your on-screen romance because this conversation. So, when I tell you we're going to find time and just bring you back for part 2, it's fine. We're going to figure it out and it's going to be great. But we are at the end of our time today. So I'm just going to open the floor. Nubia, are there any organizations, projects, anything that you want to shout out?
I do want to shout out the Montana Repertory Theater. I just did plays on call with them. I wrote a piece on sexual assault within the military. And yeah, just revolutionary. And the fact that they let me, be raw and gritty to tell this story is such an important story, and it's a personal story to me. So I want to shout them out, and I think you can still listen to the plays on call. I think if you go on Montana Repertory's website. And I do have exciting news, but I can't announce it yet because I'm waiting. I'm waiting for them to announce it. But I have exciting news that will take my playwriting career to the next level. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I just want to shout out Play On and the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, because if it had not been for Amritha, I wouldn't be even here talking to you right now. Amritha, you are a goddess. You are a queen. You have played such a major role in my life's journey. Thank you for believing in me and vouching for me and speaking on my behalf. You, queen, are amazing. And so, yeah, I love all of this. And thank you, Keyanna, for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for like being on the show and sharing your stories and your insight. If anyone was watching and is like, "Ooh, I need to follow that Nubia Monks in whatever she is doing in the world," where can people find you?
Instagram _ only Nubia, spelled exactly how it sounds. I'm also on Facebook. You can look up Nubia Monks on Facebook. And I'm on TikTok _ Queen Nubia.
Not the TikTok.
TikTok, child. I'm on a TikTok.
Let me follow you real quick on that TikTok. Ah. Okay. Wow. I hope everyone watching has had such a wonderful time listening to Nubia as much as I have this morning. And here comes the bit where I close out the episode, I promise. So, everyone, make sure you are heading over to coffee.com. That is where you will find all of your Theater's Not Dead information, like link to our merch, because, yeah, we have merch. There's also my blog, key thoughts, and, some general shenanigans whenever we're feeling a bit silly that day. So just, make sure you're hitting up Coffee. We now do monthly subscriptions. Yeah, friends, we dropped for that premium account, so now we can do monthly subscriptions. So if you feel so moved to give us, I don't know, $3 a month, $400 a month, feel free to hop over there. Thank you so much. All right, that's gonna be it for now. And buy your Othello tickets. They are on sale right now. You want to see this woman's work. I promise you do. Links are down below for our social media, but more importantly for the tickets. For the tickets on sale right now. Do it. Go ahead and scroll. Just right there. This has been Theater's Not Dead, and I'm here with Nubia Monks Othello, letting everybody know, y'all, I promise, theater ain't dead. See you next time.